Hey guys, today I wanted to talk about pets and babies. I wanted to give you some tips on how I introduced Mason to my animals. For those of you that don't know, I have a small farm in my house. I have 2 dogs and 2 cats. So this is Jordan. This is my 13-year-old dachshund mix. We also have a 10-year-old beagle and 2 cats. I think one is 3 and the other's 2. I knew when I got pregnant, if I ever got pregnant, that I would not get rid of my animals because of the baby. For those of you that don't know, the small breeds are especially not good with children. Jordan especially is not good with children. When I used to live in New Mexico with my mom, we lived in a neighborhood with lots of kids, and he was kind of like our little guard dog. Anytime kids would come near the house, he would of course guard the house, and he'd run out there all aggressive, barking and whatnot. So he's been kicked a few times. He's actually missing some teeth in the front from being kicked in the face by kids, so he really doesn't like kids. But as soon as I got pregnant, I knew we were going to have to start taking the time and training our dogs to get used to a baby. Only my dog is that way. Our beagle is complete opposite. He loves everybody. He's extremely friendly, so we knew we wouldn't have any problems with him. As far as the cats, they kind of stick to themselves. I hardly ever see them. They spend most of their time outside, so I knew we wouldn't have an issue with them. The only one we would have an issue with was Jordan. When I got pregnant, there was no way I was going to get rid of my dog. I've had him for 13 years. He's traveled with me to Chicago. He's flown in a plane. He drove from Chicago down to Texas. He's just been with me since I was in high school, so he's been with me for a really long time. Before I had a baby, my animals were my babies. So yes, I am one of those crazy people that likes to dress my animals up. So I just knew we were gonna have to get our animals ready for the baby. To start it off, long before we had Mason, we did have problems with aggression with my dachshund. In order to help control that, one of the first things we did was get the dogs out of our bed, because Jordan has slept in my bed since he was a puppy up until I met my husband. And the same thing goes for my husband's dog. His dog slept in his bed up until we met. And then when we met, we decided that the dogs would no longer sleep with us. Just because if you've ever noticed, if you have a small dog or any kind of dog, when they're sleeping with you, that's when they want to protect you. And like what I mean is, if Jordan was in bed with me and my husband decided he wanted to come and lay in bed, there was just tension and he was growling and he didn't want my husband to get close to me. And that, I didn't like that. We got them their own beds. They slept on the ground. Of course, neither one of them liked it because they've spent years sleeping with us. I think the hardest one to break the habit was Scooter, my husband's dog. That dog, oh my God, for months and months would paw at the bed because he wanted to be in there with us. But we stuck strong, and now they're happily sleeping in their own beds. Something else we did was kick them off of the couches. So as soon as I got pregnant, from then on, dogs were not allowed on the couch. And it's been that way ever since. So I think getting them off the couch was extremely helpful with minimizing the aggression, because there was just no jealousy. If anytime my husband and I are sitting together, when we used to sit together on the couch with the dogs, of course the dogs didn't want my husband and I to sit next to each other. They didn't want to sit next to the other dogs, so there were fights, there was growling. So as soon as we kicked them off the couch, all of that disappeared. They were on the floor being dogs like they had to be. So that's another thing I would recommend doing. And then the final thing was handling their food. Before my husband and I moved in together, my dog, he had free roam of food. I kept food in his bowl constantly, and he just kind of picked at it whenever he wanted. But as soon as we got the dogs together, Scooter, on the other hand, is a bottomless pit, and anytime there's food anywhere, he has to eat it. If you happen to leave the pantry door open and that bag and that dog poop bag open, he will eat himself to death. There is just no stopping him. So once we got the dogs together, they were on a schedule, feeding 2 times a day, and do you hear the rain coming down? It's coming down hard. But as soon as we would put their bowls on the floor, it was like a mad dash with who could eat their food fastest. Once you put their food on the ground, there was a little bit of aggression. Like, you could not go and reach down for their bowls because, of course, they would snip at you. So what I started doing was I was in control of their food. Once I put the bowls down, I taught them they cannot charge at the food. They had to wait till I told them it was okay to eat. So I'm still on that. I'm really strict. They have to wait till I give them the approval to eat. And that's helped out because I want them to respect me. And I think if they don't respect you, then that's when you're going to have some issues. So those are some of the steps that I took to get the dogs ready for the baby. Pretty simple, but obviously necessary. As far as the cats, a whole lot didn't go into getting them ready. But with their training, it started long before I was even pregnant. I've always wanted cats, and when we moved into this house, the first thing I thought of was, oh my god, we can have a cat now. Because the biggest reason my husband didn't want a cat is because of the litter box. He was worried our house would smell like urine or just smell gross. The only way he was okay with having a cat is if it was to go outside, or if we could teach him how to go in the toilet. So that's what I did. Once we got Emily, our first cat, from a kitten, of course she used a litter box, but we bought it's called a litter kwitter. We bought that from Petco, and we got this probably 4 years ago. I just googled it now, and it says they're selling for $50. They're selling for $50 at Petco. But when I bought it 4 years ago, I don't think it was that expensive. It had to only be like $30. But $50, it's totally worth it if you never have to scoop cat poop again. But it did work. I was very consistent with it because my husband did not want to have a litter box. In the house. So you get like, I think it's 8 different trays, and you put them in your bathroom, put litter on there and whatever, get them trained to go on the toilet. Anyways, it took probably 3 months, but I got my cat Emily to go to the bathroom in the toilet. And that was awesome because we were without a litter box. There was no smell. We moved into our house right away. We put in a doggy door so the dogs could come and go as they pleased. We don't have any accidents in the house. Once Emily was completely trained to use the bathroom and the toilet, she learned how to use the doggy door. So after we had her completely trained to go in the toilet, she started going outside. So instead of using the toilet, she was using the bathroom outside. Then Toby came along, and my second cat, and I was going to teach him how to use the toilet because he didn't know how to use the doggy door yet, and obviously we didn't want to have a litter box in the house. So I went along to starting to train him. He was a little bit more difficult, but he picked up on the doggy door really fast. So he never learned how to use the toilet. He just went directly from litter box to outside, which was awesome. Now the reason I'm bringing this litter kwitter up is because when you're pregnant, the number one thing you need to be cautious of if you have any pets is toxoplasmosis. And what that is, it's a parasitic disease that infects warm-blooded animals, and cats are the primary source of infections to humans, and that's through their feces. Cats aren't the only way to get the disease. You can also get it when handling raw meat, especially pork. Um, but it's found mainly in cats, and it's when you are handling their feces. So when you're pregnant, most doctors will recommend for the woman not to handle the litter box at all, for the husband to take care of it. So thankfully for me, I didn't have to worry about that because my cats were already going outside. But of course, it's still something to be concerned about. I know when my doctor brought it up, asked us if we had cats. Of course, we said yes. And they told us about that. My husband, first thing out of his mouth was, do we need to get rid of the cats? But because they were already going outside, we didn't have to worry about that. Having your cat go outside or use the toilet is a really good option if you can do that. But if not, you can still wear rubber gloves and just be extremely careful when handling their feces. But this just helped us out. And that was really the only thing that I had to do to prepare the cats, because like I said before, they're not very social. They like to be on their own. I knew they wouldn't bother the baby. So some of the ways that we introduced Mason to the animals. When we first brought Mason home, because once you give birth, you spend a few days in the hospital. Our dogs stayed with my in-laws. So the day we got home, our in-laws brought the dogs home, and we didn't bring Mason down to their level and let the dogs smell him, just because I didn't really trust Jordan. And Scooter was overly excited, so he's jumping up, and he's, God bless you. And he's a heavier dog with long nails, so I didn't want Mason to get scratched. So what we did instead was any of the clothes that Mason was done wearing, any blankets, we just brought it down to the dog's level, let them smell it. And that's basically how we introduced him. We introduced the smell first. They smelled his clothes, they smelled his Pampers. They got to hear him anytime Mason cried. They got to hear. Our dogs were with us. We didn't seclude them to a different bedroom or outside. They were with us anytime we had Mason. They just were not allowed to get really close because we weren't sure how they would react. Basically what we did is we just acted like normal, just with this new baby, constantly carrying him. Our dogs were already used to not sleeping in our bed, not being on the couch, so there wasn't any jealousy with that, which really helped out, because you're constantly holding the baby on the couch or in your bed, and the last thing you want is your dog trying to jump up and trying to be all over you. So that was really helpful. I highly suggest getting the animals out of your bed and off of the couch. But it just took time. The animals being around the baby, especially for me. And my little dog, if you see, he's right behind me. He is always with me, always. And what really helped was, since Mason wasn't sleeping through the night for the first few months, and he had really bad problems with gas at night, so I was up in the nursery for long hours at a time during the night, just rocking Mason to sleep, and Jordan was in here with me. So we spent a lot of time in this room with the baby, so Jordan got used to the smell. So that helped with that. There was really no jealousy, because Jordan was still with me the whole time, even though he wasn't getting immediate attention of me petting him all the time or holding him. Now my attention was over to Mason. Jordan was still around me, and he wasn't being ignored. He wasn't being shoved outside. We didn't yell at our animals. We tried to keep everything positive, and I tried to not be concerned about Mason getting bit, because once you start thinking that there's going to be a bite, then really you're setting yourself up for that bite. So anytime I have the baby around and I have the dogs around, I don't anticipate the bite, because I don't want to provoke it. I just kind of let things go. Of course, I still supervise when all the animals and baby are together. I supervise them, but I let everybody kind of do as they want. Something else, our dogs love to go for walks. All through the pregnancy, took the dogs on a walk every single day. I thought it was extremely good for me to stay healthy and stay moving around. Lots of people say when you're pregnant, the best way to have an easy delivery is to get a lot of physical activity, and my thing was walking. And I wanted to continue that when Mason was born. So, you know, as soon as I was able to get up and walk around, that's what I did. I would put Mason in his stroller and take the dogs. It took some time to teach the dogs how to walk slow. I mean, my dog is an old man and he walks slow anyways, but Scooter, he's a beagle. He's basically a nose with legs, and once he gets on a smell, he is gone. And during the whole walk, he's pulling and tugging and trying to get somewhere, choking himself. So it took a while to get him to walk by my side and walk as slow as I walked. But I'm going to sound like a nerd, but I'm a huge Caesar Milan fan, and I watch the show all the time. So, of course, with watching that show, I learned how to walk them, get them to walk slow with me, and now they walk perfectly. There's no pulling. I can walk both dogs and push the stroller at the same time, and I think that also helped. With getting the whole family to bond, because we were all out together walking peacefully, and you know, I think that just helps out. I think it's very important to get the whole family active and to include your animals. When Mason got older, about 5 months, we started using his little walker. And the walker I'm talking about are the ones that you sit your kids in and they can walk around. Well, we would put Mason in his, and in order to keep him happy, we would give him snacks. He wouldn't necessarily eat them all the time. He's, you know, walking around the house and he's got his hands out, and the dogs are obviously attracted to the food. So he actually, instead of feeding himself, Mason was feeding the animals his snacks. So that was, I mean, I can't say I was happy that the animals were eating his snacks, but at least it brought the dogs closer to him, and it was positive reinforcement. Being close to the baby meant you were gonna get a snack. And luckily, you know, the dogs took the snacks from him gently, so that's so much better, because now that Mason is really mobile, he's crawling around, he's walking, he's all over them. And now they're really used to him. They know anytime the baby's around, he's got food, so there's gonna be a handout. So they're pretty happy. I'm so proud of Jordan. He's doing so good. We haven't had any growling, no biting, no snapping. You know, if you're having difficulty with introducing your animals to your baby, or you have an aggressive animal, these are just some small steps that you can take to make introducing your baby to your pets easier. It worked for me. I'm extremely happy with the outcome. That's basically it. I hope you guys found this helpful. I hope I wasn't boring and dragging on. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in my next video.